One of the most impressive things about NBA basketball is that all it takes to change momentum in a game is a single play. Players and coaches know very well that a run can start at any moment, and that's why we'll often hear them talking about the importance of playing all 48 minutes of good basketball. A single action can swing a game in your favor or against you, and once that one of those games goes down, the whole series can change its direction. And if there's a team that's capable of making things turn in their favor during these playoffs, well, it's the Denver Nuggets. A lot has been said about their amazing comebacks, but to better understand how they were able to defeat the Clippers, we must take a look at the player that made that first crucial, series-altering action take place, Paul Millsap. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we'll talk about how Millsap has quietly done a lot for the Nuggets in recent years, and how that win against the Clippers became the icing on the cake for him. Millsap came to Denver following a 4-year stint with the Atlanta Hawks in which he was named to 4 consecutive All-Star teams but was never able to make a deep playoff run after being swept out of the conference finals by the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2015. At the time of his arrival, the Nuggets were still a young team looking for their identity. Michael Malone had just 2 seasons as the head coach of the team, and Gary Harris, Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray had been in the league for 3, 2, and 1 season respectively. They were not the worst team in the league. In fact, they had finished the previous season with the 9th seed and just a game away from making a playoff appearance and seemed to have found their core of the future with Jokic, Harris, and Murray. But they knew they needed a veteran that could push their young players to become better on the floor while also providing some leadership and guidance off the court. Luckily for them, the 4-time All-Star had just become a free agent and was looking to change conferences after failing to make it out of the East while also having the desire to play with a star player that could help him reach new grounds. As it turned out, those previous 2 seasons were enough to convince Millsap that the Nuggets had a special player in Jokic, that the other young players could turn into consistent winners, and that he could help accelerate the curve of development for rebuilding the team. Things would be a little strange for him at first. He was used to being the face of his old team and having to carry a big load, but now he was only asked with being a complementary piece that could help make his teammates get better. He had to adapt to his new role, and though he struggled with injuries during much of his first season in Denver, he had an immediate impact on the team. After finishing with a 40-42 record the previous year, they improved to 46-36 to finish with a winning record for the first time in 5 years. They also put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. In their last game of the season, they were matched against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had the same record as them, and the winner would take the 8th seed in the West. They ended up losing that game, but had made enough improvements to know that they could be much better in the following year. And after being eliminated on the last game of the season, they were hungry to make it to the playoffs. Millsap was healthier this go-around, and he helped the team make it to the second-best record in the Western Conference. The young Nuggets were questioned by many for their inexperience, and they needed 7 games to make it out of the first round before being eliminated in the conference semifinals, also in 7 games. And then, with most of the attention focused on Los Angeles and Milwaukee, the Nuggets had another excellent season the following year on their way to clinching the 3rd seed in the West. Already, at 34 years old when the season started, Millsap's stats had been declining since he arrived in Denver, as were his minutes. But he made major improvements in his shooting to add a new dimension to his game, as he finished with a career-best 44% shooting from deep and 81% from the free throw line. His three-point shooting percentage was among the top 10 for players that attempted at least 100 shots in the entire league. But with most of the offseason coming from the younger players, that's not where his biggest impact was during the regular season. On defense, his fundamentals were as good as ever, and this helped his team generate a defensive rating of 102.2 when he was on the floor, best on the team among rotation players. He also had some excellent numbers when looking at the advanced metrics. His defensive real plus-minus of plus 1.35 was better than that of players like Marcus Smart or Anthony Davis, and the Nuggets' net rating of plus 11.3 when he was on the floor was also among the best in the league. In short, despite him playing fewer minutes and again missing some time because of injury, whenever Millsap was on the floor, he made his team better. But as good as this sounds for the reg season, things were about to change once the playoffs started, both for the better and for the worst. During the first-round series against the Utah Jazz, the veteran had a difficult time as his overall numbers decreased, and his impact seemed to be hurting the team as they fell behind 3-1. His three-point shooting continued to be great, but his defensive impact was not the same, and when Malone figured that he needed to make some adjustments to make their defense better, he took some minutes away from Millsap in the last 3 games of the series, all of which resulted in a Nuggets win. Then came the now famous series against the Clippers. No one had the Nuggets making it out of the second round. They were coming off an exhausting 7-game series, and Los Angeles had too much talent for Denver to make it through them. Or that's what most people were thinking, at least. Millsap managed to play better to start the series as his minutes were up again, but throughout the first 4 games of the series, Denver looked like the inferior team and put itself in another 3-1 deficit. Every game would be a win-or-go-home situation from that point on, and though they had shown to be capable of making improbable comebacks take place, something different had to take place for them to come out on top once again. But for the better part of Game 5, it didn't look like the Nuggets were going to find that something that could give them life. They were down by 15 points in the second half, and it seemed like their season was all but over already. But then, Millsap happened. Marcus Morris had just made a hard foul on him that resulted in a technical for Morris, but after the whistle sounded, Millsap didn't turn his back on his aggressor as he would often do before. Instead, he went straight at Morris as both players exchanged a few words and shoves. As he later described it, Morris and the Clippers had been trash-talking on them the whole series, and they were doing it even more during Game 5. But after the foul, he decided that he'd had enough. Malone said the moment was a pivotal play, a turning point in the game, and it started a sequence that would change the course of the series in their favor. Millsap took it upon himself to bring his team back into the game, scoring 14 of his 17 points in the third quarter on 4 of 5 shooting from the field and 5 of 6 of free throws. After he was finished, Denver had cut the lead to 7 points to start the fourth quarter, and from that point forward, they did not look back, outscoring the Clippers by 13 points the rest of the way and avoiding elimination for the fourth time in the playoffs. That play made the difference for them during the game, and then that game made the difference for them in the series. Millsap wouldn't have another offensive bust during the rest of the series, but his team won Games 6 and 7, coming back from large deficits both times to make history and send home one of the title favorites earlier than most people expected. And that moment could perfectly resume his career with the Nuggets. He's not been named to an All-Star team again, nor has he led his team in any categories in the past years. But he's been the kind of player that has made the game-changing plays when it matters the most. He's had a huge defensive impact for them during their time together while also expanding his range, and most importantly, he's pushed his teammates to get better. He knows that he's no longer a star player in the league, but he also knows that at least 2 of his teammates have the potential to be among the best players for many years to come, and he's been there to let them know it. Now, as they face an even bigger challenge in LeBron James and the Lakers, they know most people are already counting them out once again, but they'll be the first to tell you that they don't care about that. For both Millsap and the Nuggets, the match against the Lakers means something more than just another series. For Denver, this is only their 4th appearance in the conference finals, but it's their 3rd time facing LA there, and they lost their previous 2 encounters in 2009 and 1985. For Millsap, there's even more to take into consideration. When he played for the Jazz, he was eliminated by the Lakers in 3 consecutive seasons from 2008 to 2010. Then when he played with the Hawks, he was swept by LeBron and the Cavs in back-to-back seasons in 2015 and 2016. So it's fair to say that the Nuggets and Millsap should play with a chip on their shoulder, and perhaps that will help them emulate a 3-1 deficit without actually being there. But regardless of what everyone's thinking, this Denver team believes that this is the year for them to make some noise in the finals. We'll find out in a few days whether that ends up being the case or not, but we won't be counting them out until the series is over. And in Millsap's case, this could be his last year with the team, given that he'll become a free agent when the season is over. He's expressed his desire to remain with the Nuggets, but they might need to make some financial movements to make it happen. Still, regardless of what ends up taking place with their season, the vet has delivered and has helped build a championship contender, and he should be proud of it. Now, only time will tell if Denver will be able to win its first NBA championship or not. All in all, Paul Millsap has always been the kind of player that lets his game do the talking for him, and that has always made whatever is needed from him to try to help make his team win games. Whether that is scoring when things are looking bad, making a defensive stop when it's most needed, or helping the young players get better every single day, he's always all in for it, and will surely continue to be it for a few more years. But now, what do you think of how Millsap helped the Nuggets get better and eventually save their season? Do you think he'll be back with the team next year? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.